Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? I'm going to wait till someone in the chat tells me that we are live. Or I'm just going to continue saying this because I love saying "Are we live?" repeatedly into the microphone. The Devils are 7-1-0 when I say "Are we live? Are we live? Are we live?" into the Speaking of the Devils microphone. Welcome everybody to Speaking of the Devils. I'm your host Ryan Novozinsky, joining you as always from the Prudential Center right here in downtown Newark, New Jersey, where the site of where the Devils beat the San Jose Sharks at a final score of 3-1 tonight. Dougie Hamilton, two power play goals. Who got the empty netter there at the end? I think it was Connor Brown. Connor Brown, and then William Eklund gets one for the San Jose Sharks. Um, Man, Askarov was really good for the Sharks tonight too. The Devils were almost goalied. I thought that was trending in that direction. But we are live, everybody. Look at that. James O'Hara says we are. Are we live times three? Dime Season says live. Stan McCune says live. So I'm just going to assume that we are live. Thank you all for tuning in. Please be sure to hit that like button, to demolish that like button tonight, just like your Timo Meyer on a board battle or in a net battle like he had tonight. Um, be sure to do that. Be sure to press subscribe. Be sure to share the link out to all your friends, all your Devils fans friends. Get people on this Devils bandwagon because I feel like this team needs to be broken up right now. Someone break up the Devils. They are unbelievably hot to start the season. They are a wagon. They have won, as mentioned, 7 games in a row. So let's start to break down what happened to the Devils versus the San Jose Sharks because it was kind of a gutted out kind of victory for the Devils tonight. Despite the 2-goal win, there was really obviously pretty much a 1-goal victory because of the empty netter at the end. But let's get through it and let's break down some of my notes from the first couple from the 3 periods here, obviously. And then we will get to all of your delightful comments that I'm sure are just blowing up right now. We got a bunch of people in the stream right now. We got a bunch of people in the comment section. So I thank you all for tuning in. Let's get right into it, and we will start with some early adversity for the Devils. Okay, you got the Eklund goal. It was a power play goal for the Sharks. I thought that this was just momentum carried over from that win that San Jose had at MSG last night, and that's a spunky little team that they have right there. So a lot of young talent there, and a lot to like on that San Jose team. But early on there, it really did look like this was going to be that trap game central for the Devils. They obviously lost twice to the Sharks last year. Sheldon Keefe mentioned it post game. This is a game that last year that they lost. They lost this exact game last year versus the Sharks, where it was kind of grinded out. And they end up on the losing side of it. The Devils do. This year, you see that more mature game from the Devils that we've talked about way too much. But it's definitely the truth. But it's just becoming a cliche at this point. But I thought the Devils, they look a little out of sync on that early penalty kill, and obviously that consecutive penalty kill streak ends at 21. We hardly knew ye, but it was able to get to legal drinking age. There you go. And I thought too, early on in that power play for San Jose, they were humming well, they were passing the puck well. Again, they took advantage of a Devils penalty kill that I thought was looked a bit off to start at least, at least comparatively speaking to the previous 21 penalty kills the Devils had. Askarov was really the story a lot in this one. I'd love to see the fancy numbers that he had in this game. I'm going to check Money Puck right here. Per Money Puck, Askarov, the Yaroslav Askarov, the goalie of the San Jose Sharks, he saved 0.62 saves above expected according to Money Puck. I thought it'd be a little bit more. He was on fire. This is a guy that I remember Devils fans wanting for years. That this was one of the guys maybe go poach him away from Nashville. Obviously, San Jose gets him, just a couple of years ago. I don't know how he's doing overall. I know the Sharks aren't a good team, but man, was he unbelievable tonight. I know he's still young, but he was, just got to give him his credit there. Going through some of the notes here, I noticed Gritsuk a little bit in this game too. He had a nice little spin pass near the end wall to Nico Hischier in the slot. Obviously didn't score in that goal or didn't score in that play, but I thought just some noticeable stuff. Just noticeable things for Gritsuk to do nicely. Devil's forecheck looked good. We'll get more into that if someone asks about it in the comments. Because we're going to kind of try to breeze through these notes just so we can get into these delightful comments that I love answering. Face-offs killed the Devils in that first period, man. This was a at one point it was they lost 10 of 11 face-offs. I think at the end it was let's see, the Sharks had a 81.3 win percentage on the face-off dot after that first period. Yikes from the Devils. I think Nico Hischier, at 1.2 was the only Devil that had won a couple face-offs, and that was last I checked. That was like with like a minute to go in the first. So I don't know if there was any other ones. But sloppy out the gates for the Devils. It was one of those signature slow starts for them where they got outchanced to start. Shots were pretty even. Again, dominated on the face-off dot, and they got goalied. So that was the tail of the first period. Just a messy start for the Devils, but once again, talking about the maturity and pulling themselves out of this adversity. They come out of the gates hot, right? And there's always it's a thing of beauty in hockey. These to come out with they ended the period on a power play. They start the new period fresh sheet of ice with a power play, still some time on there, and then Dougie Hamilton takes advantage of it. He saved the puck from rolling back into New Jersey zone. He kind of grabbed it in the slot there, rifled it for his second goal of the year. Really clutch play from him, and he did it in spots that this was mentioned in the post game. Dougie did it really in spots where you really don't see those Dougie Hamilton goals on the power play. Usually it's from the point, from the blue line, but and he's got that clapper that we'll get into in a second here, that I think that Dougie's making a case that he should just permanently stay on this power play one, because he's proving why that he's been good at that in years past. There's a reason that a couple years ago when he gets injured, the Devils, that was really the start of the Devils' decline in that 23-24 season. Was Dougie was having that shot off the power play. It was such a huge loss for them. So I like Dougie on power play one. I think that he's proven that he's earned it so far. Not to say Luke hasn't, but he just kind of brings a thing that Luke doesn't necessarily have right now. In that powerful clapper that Dougie has. I really like having Dougie on the first power play, but obviously it's going to rotate here and there. Sheldon Keefe doesn't really have a set power play. He said he's going to rotate it on a case by case, game by game basis. So we'll see, who ends up getting more minutes up there. But I really do like Dougie with all of the stars there. Let's see. Let's talk about that weird sequence. Did we all learn a rule today? Tell me in the chat if you guys learned a rule today. I'm going to turn the chat on the screen here as well. I'm sure we all learned a rule today, because what a weird sequence. It was so Sheldon Keefe called a he challenged for offsides. We thought that Skinner scored a goal after a Wenberg breakaway, but the Devils obviously they saw the offsides, and it was an obvious offsides. But then Nemec still gets knocked for that. What was the penalty? I think it was a tripping call. Was it a tripping call? I'm going to just check the stats here for ultimate clarity. Yeah, tripping against Alex Wenberg. And that was so weird because he's called for tripping after a challenge, and the successful challenge, mind you, for offside. So you would think that it would just get wiped away, right? Like, that play didn't happen. Where do you time that? That's what Sheldon Keefe even asked, because I asked him in the post game, like what was going through his mind during that sequence. It was a really precarious sequence. The official timing, they put it at 1:51 of the second period. But I think it was just, a lot of people are sitting there as being like, okay, if the offsides didn't happen, then how did the penalty happen? You wipe that play away, you wind back the clock. So how are you going to count the offsides? And the rule is, I looked into this, and we can read the official ruling here, because I think I retweeted it. I'm going to go ahead and scroll back just so we can read the official one. Let's see. Results of a successful coaches challenge in cases where a challenge has been initiated for an offsides play leading to a goal, or a missed game stoppage event in the offensive zone leading to a goal, and a determination is made that the goal call should be overturned, then the goal should be disallowed. Hold on, I'm like, this picture is so unclear. Okay, we're going to stop reading this because it's just completely unclear. Basically, they call this so that no one no one has a crazy penalty out there. And, obviously in this case it was a tripping, but it could have been a whole heck of a lot worse. Like someone might see that as like a free play in football, basically, and improvise and do whatever they want because they know they can get away with it. This is done to prevent all of that. So I see, I think the spirit of it. I was texting with someone during the game. Um, I don't quite follow the spirit of it because it's like, okay, like, should be free. It should be kind of a free play because they wiped away that play. But um, I understand the logic behind it because you don't want to see anybody get hurt and you don't want it to be basically fair game for somebody to commit a crazy penalty. Dougie Hamilton then scored again. Okay, he scored shortly thereafter. Dougie Hamilton, another power play goal. Great play by Jack there. Dougie Hamilton's trade value continues to climb. And 2 points for Nico Hischier on both of those Dougie goals, certainly of note. And then, the power play was very strong tonight. I thought on that 5-on-3, it was a little weird. It was a little weak. They were obviously buzzing, and I understand that. But you have that 5-on-3, and it just, I feel like that first unit, they kind of lost their legs a little bit at the end of that 5-on-3. So I'd like to see the second unit get a little bit more time there. But hey, I also don't I don't blame them. I don't blame Keith for not putting that second unit on just because of how well that unit had been buzzing, especially with the 2 goals from Dougie. Shout out to, Devils defensively. 0 shots for the Sharks in that second period. It was a 12-0 shot differential. The first time they've blanked a team on shots in a period since January 6th, 2017 versus Toronto. So pretty crazy stat there. So that'll do it pretty much for my notes because I think we covered all the scoring, we covered all the juicy stuff. Now let's get into the comments because I know that's why you guys are here. And we will start tonight with Gerald York, a regular commenter right now. Gerald, how are you doing tonight? Not our normal style tonight. Very greasy win. Do you think we see Casey in the lineup for Nemec if Casey starts tearing it up at the A? I think Nemec was benched for a period of time tonight. Nemec has been such a hot and cold player this year. There was that sequence. I think it was more of a breakdown on Dylan's part for sure on that goal that was overturned because of the challenge. But Nemec is like, one game he looks like a player that can drive offense and look solid in the defensive zone, but I feel like these defensive mistakes are just like hampering him so much, and he's the Jekyll and Hyde player that he's one player one game, and then he's you just never know which kind of Shimon Nemec you're going to get on a given night. There's a lot of inconsistencies there. A lot of that's going to be leveled out by Kovacevic coming back at some point, obviously, but that's not until 2026, is by all accounts. If Casey makes a name for himself in the AHL and he's back from injury, as I reported here, this week, that I didn't think that would be that long for him to be out. There's no reason why you shouldn't give Casey a look if he's tearing it up in the AHL. So let's move on. Jay Snow says that was an ugly win, but you take it. It sure was, man. I mean, look, the Sharks just give them all sorts of problems. I was pretty much ready to chalk that up to a loss, and I was ready to ask Keefe in the post game, like, why, how does this team pretty much have your number? Like over the years, it's pretty crazy. Like the Devils didn't beat this team last year, and they were really bad last year, and they obviously are off to a incredibly cold start. They have a little more talent this year, and that's fine. But yeah, no, this is a team that for some reason has the Devils number. Let's keep going, and we're going to try to avoid, multiple. We're going to get if you have questions that are spaced out, more than fine. But we're going to try to avoid getting multiple questions in a row. Stan McCune says, I think as long as we are winning, Keefe will keep Nemec out there. He's such an up and down player. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, he's a hot and cold up and down player. But as Stan says here, it's a good point. You don't really want to make any lineup tweaks outside of injury while you're on a 7-game win streak. That's a good point by you, Stan. So good on you there. And but I don't love that Brendan Dillon and Nemec pairing. I think it's just Again, I think Dylan's been fine. I think he's off to a really good start this season. I don't think Dylan's the problem on that pairing, although I think he was the problem. It was certainly a defensive breakdown for him on that goal that was called back from being offsides. But yeah, just not a big fan of that. I think this team needs a little Kovacevic back, and that's going to be a welcome sign for them. Um, Gerald York agrees with Stan, says that he's more of an up and down player. Um, sorry, I just said we're not going to take multiple people in a row, and then I just click on people who are multiple people in a row. Um, let's see. Matt Brown says loving the Connor Brown signing. Yeah, Brown tonight scores obviously the empty net goal, but I think that his line. I thought that this was Paul Cotter's. I thought that this was one of his best games of the season, if not his best. And I think that line, the big question going into this, because Cody Glass, as Sheldon Keefe pointed out, and I should have mentioned this off the top, Cody Glass is going to be out now for a couple weeks. I thought, and I was just guessing the other day when I said that I didn't anticipate him to be out for a while. That was not based on any reporting or anything. That was just based on the vibe that Keefe had after the game. He himself didn't sound like he was too pessimistic about the timeline there for Cody Glass, but the big question was, how can that line survive? Can that line survive having Mercer be the center of it, obviously, and be kind of the play driver there? Um, and can it stay afloat with Cotter coming up as well? So it's an interesting little mix there. I like it though, and it's obviously proving well. I thought that line had a good night tonight. Dawson Mercer gets another point. I think he's got 8 points in 7 games, the hottest start of Mercer's career. I'm going to try to look at the nerd numbers for that line. Let's see, forward lines for the Devils. That line had a 12-5 shot attempt advantage, and expected goals 4%. Oh my gosh, one of the best. It was the second best besides that Nico Timo Gritsuk line. They had a 1-to-1 high danger chance edge, and then an expected goals for percentage of 70.54. So a really good night, and the eye test passed it too, obviously. But those numbers just help you confirm what your eyes are seeing. There were even spurts there. Cotter's an interesting player because he's a good 200-foot player. He's obviously greasy kind of gritty player. But he also shows these random spurts of skill. There was a play early on in the first where he just like drove in front of the net, using nice hand-eye coordination, trying to get through, trying to get it past Askarov. Obviously didn't happen early on there. Trying to see. It tries to push it through Askarov, but no dice. And that was a testament to how well Askarov was playing. But to go back to your Connor Brown point, I mean, I just think that line is rolling well right now, and I think that they prove that they can kind of stay afloat. Damon Evaldi says we got to start making goals. 10-game heater. Are we live merch? 15-game heater. Novo shaves his eyebrows. Oh man, are you? Do I have to shave? I'm not shaving my eyebrows. What's wrong with you, Damon Evaldi? 10-game heater, are we live merch? Yeah, I'm with that. 15-game heater, we make shirts that say doesn't watch the game very well, and you guys buy that, and it's a good conversation starter for you guys. That's what I think we should do. All right, so let's move on here to Sharon Golvich. What do you think a Gritsuk extension could look like? I was thinking about this yesterday. This is going to be an interesting question that goes, pretty. It's going to be pretty underrated at this point. He's proving to be a dynamic all around player, a guy that could do a little bit of it all, and a guy that's proving through 2 games here that he belongs in that top 6. He's a really nice fit on that Nico and Timo line. I thought all along that the fit for him might be on that Jack and Brat line, but he's been such a good playmaker, Gritsuk has, and he's been so good at dishing the puck that I don't think you really need it, because the chemistry between Jack and Brat there is so nice that, the advantage you want by having Grichuk on that line is that shot, and the shot, is there, no doubt, and it might, he might have more opportunities if he's on that line. But the way that he's rolling there with Nico and Timo, not only is he keeping up in the offensive end, he's keeping up in the defensive end too. And he's, been tasked with some pretty tough challenges here in the past couple of days. Obviously, the notable one against the one line against Minnesota. Um, Curious to see how he does against Colorado. These are big tests coming up for these Devils against the Avalanche. 2 games in a row against them, and then get the nice. I can't even say breather against the Sharks because the Sharks play them so well. But 2 best teams in the league right now. Potential Stanley Cup preview between the Avs and the Devils. Sorry, this chair is like crazy. I don't know if you guys could hear that or not, but yeah, no. The to answer your question, Sharon Golovich, because I was just lost at complimenting Gritsuk a little bit. I'm gonna go with Fitzgerald should really try to push for a bridge there, just because you really don't want this to be a fluky 1-year thing. I think Devils fans know that all too well with Gusev. I think Gusev came over and was pretty good his first year, really good his first year, and then you just don't want to extend a guy 7 years or something like that, or 6 years or whatever the case may be, and just for him to turn into a pumpkin year 2, because the league caught up to him. I think Fitzgerald should try to push for a bridge, but that's just me. As far as money goes, I don't even know. Like that, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna even try to put a guess on that. And that's, sorry to not be fun there, but it's just it's so early in his career. He's just 7 games in. NF Devils 25 says new number 7 was floating in the water. There you go. 7th win in a row for the Devils. Jay Snow says, I'm not a big fan of Mercer at center. Of course, more injuries. Center depth is going to be an issue. They might have to go get another center just for depth purposes, right? I like what Glenn Denning's done so far. Sure. I like what Cody Glass has done so far. Obviously, he's injured, and we all know that. And then the top two centers, you can't say enough about those 2 guys. You need another guy. You need another third line center, another guy that can plug in at third line center, because Mercer had a good game, and there's no doubt about that. But that's one of the worst teams in the league. That's one of the dregs of the league. So you can't say for sure that this is going to stay consistent. Mercer's off to a heck of a hot start to this season. No one's denying that. But I worry that as the further away he gets from playing on that Nico and Timo line, maybe the production dips a little bit. And that's not a knock on Mercer. I'm not even saying that's a knock on Mercer. That's just a testament to how well that line was buzzing and how good those 2 players are. How about Timo, by the way, the little net battle? I forget who was he going against in that little net battle there. But the crowd, I have the Prudential Center crowd tonight was so loud. But the loudest they got was on that Timo chant. It was crazy, man. That was really shout out to that section that started that. I thought I saw a commenter on my Twitter page say that their section was the one that started. So shout out to you guys, because we heard that all the way up there. I got one of those Apple Watch ping notifications that said it's too loud, which I usually get at like a lot of these games, but neither here nor there. Let's see. Rick Roma says third line center idea Zaka. Apparently the ask on Zaka is just insanely high. So I don't think Devils fans would want him back anyway, because Zaka has been, obviously turned it around in Boston. But I don't think Devils fans want that back, because I just think it's just not a good fit there. Stan McHugh says, Novo, how much of this year's success is the team being more comfortable in the keep system? I think that is the biggest factor, not named Jack Hughes and not named goaltending. This team is so bought into this system. This team is not only bought into his system, but they're bought into the new structure under new defensive coach Connor Brown. New defensive coach Connor Brown. What a freaking idiot I am. New defensive coach Brad Shaw, who, after this year, if this year continues, progressing the way that it has, is not going to be on this coaching staff for much longer, because he's just going to get himself a head coaching gig. Yeah, this team is really bought into this system. Um, More comfortable a second year under Keefe. Um, More comfortable, not having to go to Prague last year like they did last year. Um, this team is on fire. This team is better than the team that went on a 13 game winning streak. Let's see if they can do it. Let's see if they can match that win total in a row, because I wouldn't put it past them. I know they have a couple tests here, but they've passed every test so far that they've had this season. So I wouldn't put it past them. Tim City 30 thought Luke was going to turn to the dark side there for a minute after bumping into Connor. What a strange sequence that was. So you had Luke, I think he was on a 2-on-1. So before the Cotter thing happened, Luke was on that 2-on-1 and he kind of whiffed. He kind of, whiffed on the shot there. And that's not the first time he's had that sequence happen to him this year. I have to sneeze so bad. Let me try to do this. Hold on. Oh, oh, it was one of those things where it just didn't happen. It was there, but it didn't happen. I'm so sorry about that, everyone. Um, Luke was on the 2-on-1 and he kind of whiffed on his shot. And then shortly thereafter, he bumps into Connor. So it was just a perfect storm of frustration. Because I saw uh, Chief Devil's Twitter analytics guy, Chief Devil's Twitter master rage baiter, CJ Totoro. He says, he's like, what does Luke have to be pissed about? He's like, he's got, a brand new contract. His team's on a 6-game winning streak. It must just be like pent up frustration, pent up rage, or whatever. I don't know what it was. Maybe I think it was just emotions boiling over, and that was just a frustrating shift for him all around, where he gets um, the whiff on the shot, and then he gets the bumping into Cotter. So I just think he was really pissed because of that shift. But obviously slams the stick on the bench there, and I'm sure that video's been posted. I'm sure like Bleacher Report or some crap has like posted that. But yeah, no, definitely an interesting sequence all around there. I thought that Luke was I thought that we would see after that. I was hoping that we would see like a Luke. Remember that one game? I think it was against Columbus a couple years ago, where Luke had that sequence where he just went coast to coast up the ice, and he just looked like Niedermeyer. Like that was like it was like his second year, and he looked like Niedermeyer going up the ice. I was hoping we would see like a Luke like rage moment like that, where he just goes, creates his own breakaway opportunity and does something like that after that. But obviously that didn't happen. Maybe we'll get a Luke goal at some point here soon. Nico, how are you today, my man? You studying for your test? Everything good? Nico says this was the most ugliest Devils win so far. Nico, you don't have to say most ugliest. You can just say the most ugly Devils win so far. So go study for your test tomorrow. I'm just joking with you, Nico. It was the most ugly Devils win so far. But that's, I think that adds to the lore of this season. I think that adds to the credibility a little bit of this season, right? Because the Devils have not won in any sort of singular way. They've had to have a bunch of different tests here, a bunch of different grinded out tests here against teams that, I'm not saying the Sharks are good. I think they're actually one of the dregs of the league, as I mentioned, but they have skill. Jake Allen admitted that, and they are going to be a really good team in the future if they get the right pieces to surround Celebrini with. This was a test for the Devils. This is a team that they had a lot of failure against in the past, in recent history. For them to pass this test tonight and to basically have the same game that they did against them last year. Sans, I think the own goal happened against the Sharks last year. And for them to come out on top, this team is battle tested. There's reason to be confident about the Devils right now. I keep saying that after every stream. Can we just say this? We start these YouTube streams and the Devils start going on this insane heater. This has been the greatest thing for business. I can shout out to the New Jersey Devils. They understood the assignment. They understood that we were starting this stream this year, and they wanted us to have some success. So there you go. But they had their own success. Andrew says, broke the 4 games in a row curse, broke the typical back-to-back games curse, broke a curse not usually beating bad teams like the Sharks. This team is definitely wagon. Andrew, no notes on that. Perfect way to sum it up, my friend. Really like that. Sam McCune says Luke is getting roasted on X for that meltdown. I'm not surprised. Jay Snow says, I thought they didn't play well tonight. Sloppy passing, not great in the ozone, but hey, they grinded out. Yeah, they never really did get settled in the ozone aside from some of those power play opportunities. And in that second period, obviously, that was, where you saw a lot of the structure. And Nico mentioned it too. And I love the honesty from Nico Hischier after the game, where someone asked him the lob question of like, I think it was running with the Devils that asked him. So shout out him in the press box, doing a really good job. Um, he asked him like what to see that team, to see your team go on a 12-0 shot differential in the second period. What does that say about this team and the growth of this team? And Nico admits it flat out. He's like, "We had a lot of power plays in that second period," and it's like, yeah, like I like a guy who keeps it real like that in that vein. But at some point you got to be excited as well because this team obviously that's no small feat to have. But I'm with you, Jay Snow. I think that outside of some of those power play chances, there was like a couple power plays here and there. So obviously the ones they scored on, but they were passing it well there. But that's easy to do on a power play, especially against the Sharks, who I'm sure aren't a good penalty kill team. Didn't really get some ozone, settled in the ozone there. Let's see if that they can change and play up to the competition against the Avalanche. Okay, more questions about Luke. Let's see. Gonna scroll down because we have a whole bunch. Jay Snow, you're the man. Thank you so much for commenting this many times in a row. I really appreciate that. Engaging in the chat. Patrick Booth says, "Don't know if this has been discussed yet, but the Devils seem much more physical this year than years past. More hits, more aggressive forecheck, winning more puck battles along the boards." Great point, Patrick Booth. Listen, I think the forecheck. I had a forecheck note here tonight. I had a couple forecheck notes here, and I started off here by saying, and this was in the first period, shout out the Devils forecheck again because we've been shouting it out a whole heck of a lot, Pat. So good on you for noticing that, and you're not wrong for noticing it. And I wrote here there was a sequence where it was just a perfect forecheck from it was from Timo there. It was like 5 minutes left. There was a Sharks defenseman that was in the middle of the trapezoid. Gritz was on the other end of the trapezoid, and the Sharks defenseman, I can't remember who it was. Timo, like, he clearly didn't see Timo, but Timo rushes to him, and if you see Timo barreling at you, it's obviously an intimidating sight. But for him to do it off the, on the forecheck so aggressively, and steals the puck away, ends up coming up with the loose, creating a loose puck and coming away with it. That is such a great play style for the Devils to have. I've been begging for them to just be strong on the forecheck for years because I just remember how intimidating it was. My first year when they played that Carolina team, that 22-23 Carolina team, Carolina's built through that forecheck. That's how Brendan Moore, that's his style. For the Devils to grab a little bit of that and add a little bit of that to them, and for the Devils to have more star talent than the Hurricanes. So if they can play like the Hurricanes, add a little bit more physicality than the Hurricanes, and also have a little bit more scoring than the Hurricanes, then I think that those are the reasons that the Devils playing like that is such a good model. And obviously blending some good sound offensive zone play in there too. This is the reason the Devils are 7-1 right now. Now, the only hurdle that the Devils have to get over is that they have to beat the Hurricanes. So, especially at their own building. So let's see if, next time. The Devils are in a bit of a groove right now. I don't know exactly when they play the Hurricanes, and I've said this before on the stream, so I'm going to look it up right now. Let's see if they can finally get that monkey off their back and beat this Hurricanes team, who they play next in January, 2 times in January. So must see TV there, and both times are in Newark. So we won't even see if they can pass that test. But we'll see what kind of numbers the Devils can do until then. Back to the chat. Okay. Damn it, Evaldi says, "I still find it crazy that Jack's biggest weakness is his face-off game. According to the box score, he didn't take a single face-off the entire game." Yeah, listen, it's definitely not a strong suit. I remember, and I wrote this number of years ago, but we were I was at the Devil's Dad's. I was at the Devil's Dad's Day event, and Jim Hughes was in the dad's box and I had all access to the dad's box, and it was, and they were really gracious with their time. It was a really fun time. But it was like, I think Jim missed like the opening face-off against the Blue Jackets. So it was like 2 years ago, and um, Jim like was over there talking to somebody. He missed what happened on the ice. He turns around and he's like, "Oh, we lost the opening face-off." Or no, sorry, he was like, "Oh, Jack took the opening face-off. Oh, of course we lost it," or something like that. So it was like, it's known that Jack is not necessarily the best at face-offs. Hopefully that's something he can work on in the future. But definitely not his strong suit. And I think that's why you always see like, oh, maybe Jackson moved to the wing. But I think that there's a little bit more that goes into it. I think he's such a play driver that I don't mind him being on the center. Let's keep going a little bit here, and then we're going to wrap up because I have to get home because it's going to be very late when I get home. Yeah, Jay Snow says he's never improved on the dot. That's very true. Let's see. Patrick Booth says Dougie on PP1 is a no-brainer. He's the better power play player and it really isn't even close. Yeah, look, I think he could quarterback it, and I think that having that shot there is just it's such a threat that you just want to have it. To me, I agree with you, Pat. It's a no-brainer to have him on that power play one. And increase that trade value, baby. It's already increasing right now. You saw it there with 2 goals tonight. If the Devils do end up having to either part ways with him, or if they decide, hey, we're going to keep him, it's a win-win for them because he increases trade value via having him on the power play and racking up those numbers. And also, if he's just a good player on the power play, boom, good for your power play if they do decide to keep him. Let's see. We have a good little conversation going on here. So not many questions that we have to pop on the screen. Tim Frith 24 says Devils won. Yes, Tim, the Devils did win 3-1. Let's see. Matthias Wiggleham says old school win, Meadowland vibe. Oh man, it's not the Meadowlands without those sweet, sweet tailgates and the walk through that cold, cold tunnel. So I don't know. Rick Roma says, and we're going to wrap up after these next 2 comments. We're going to take Rick Roma's and then someone else's. We're going to go and find the most interesting question in the chat, and we will take one of those. The last 7 wins has been awesome, but all those teams they beat are having serious issues right now. The home and home with the Avs will be the real test. It's so interesting you say that, Rick. Look, we all came into this season thinking, oh man, what a gauntlet the Devils have to face, to start the season against some of these teams. Well, Tampa has like 2 wins or something like that. Toronto looked like a mess. The Blue Jackets, I'm sure are still. I think I saw the other day they're still near the bottom of the Metro standing. I think I could be wrong on that. Totally right there. I think even Edmonton kind of got off to a kind of start. This Colorado team, they're good, and they're good on paper too. On the in the standings. So this is certainly going to be the test, and you got them 2 games in a row. So how do the Devils respond? We will see. This will be one of those, turning moments in the season. A moment that you can see it. Just get one of them. Just get one of these wins. Ideally 2. Ideally you keep the heater going. But if you can get one of them, and you could do it, either in a gutted out kind of fashion like you did, or in a convincing fashion, then that would be interesting to see. I would like to see it. Look, we saw a couple years ago in that 13-game winning streak. I would say the 2 biggest tests there were Edmonton and Colorado. The Devils passed the Edmonton test this time. Can they pass that Colorado test once again, like they did en route to that 13-game winning streak? And then can they go on another 13-game winning streak? Because if you get over that Colorado hurdle here, the sky's the limit. Because you can beat those 2 LA teams. Those 2 LA teams too are not in good shape right now either. That San Jose team, you just beat them tonight. I don't know who they have after that. I think they have Montreal, another team that's really hot to start the season. And we won't go down the whole list, but there's some winnable games here. And this Devils team, best in the league right now. They can do it. But we'll see if they can pass that test. All right, so I'm going to scroll through right now, and I'm going to try to find the most interesting question or comment. And then we are going to wrap it up. So forgive me for Just scrolling through here. Duck Duck Gusev says, I should have come upstairs and crashed the stream tonight. No, Duck Duck, because I'm not even upstairs. Let's finish with this. Nico is King says, Sup Nova with Glass out for a bit. Is it fair to assume the Devils will call up a forward on the road trip? Shane LeChance time, maybe? Yeah, no, I could see it. I just have to work through the cap a little bit to see what the ramifications are there. Like you might have to place Glass in LTIR, but then it becomes a situation where he might be out for an even more extended period of time. I don't know exactly what they do, but a call up wouldn't surprise me if they can fit it in cap wise. I think that things start to even out a little bit once Dawes is sent down and once Markstrom is put back on. So they might be able to afford to send someone up. You could. I saw someone too. Like someone commented this on something today that you could probably put Lamico on LTIR too, depending on how long you want him out. I mean, it kind of doesn't really matter. All due respect to him. But yeah, we will see. We will see what happens. But that'll do it, everybody. That'll do it. Thank you so much for tuning in to Speaking of the Devils. We had such a fun time tonight, as we do every single stream. Please consider throwing us a sub. Please consider throwing us a like. Please consider sharing out the link if you guys enjoyed the show. If you guys can spread that link to all your friends or spread it on all your social media platforms, specifically X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, it would be a big help. And tag me. I'll tell you what, if you tag me, I know I did a cookie giveaway the other day, and I still have to live up to that. Kim something won, but we'll give that to Kim. If you guys tag me and share the link to our YouTube page on X, on Twitter, I will pick one of those random winners to win slipping Jimmy Nichols is right here, to win a press box cookie this year. Okay? Those are the rules. I will pick a random winner. I'll do the little wheel spinner, and we will make that happen for you. But for Ryan Novozinsky and the Speaking of the Devils podcast, right here at Prudential Center, we will talk to you after Sunday's game against the Colorado Avalanche. Have a great day.